Hi everyone, Xthany Site Tano here, the internet's busiest music nerd, and it's time for a review of the new Natalia Lafourcade album, Musas Volume 2. Natalia is a Mexican pop singer whose talents have been reverberating louder and louder north of the border over the last few years, mostly thanks to her 2015 album Hasta la Race, an album that successfully blended elements of Latin American folk with contemporary twee and indie pop. Also last year, she landed a pretty prominent vocal spot on Disney's Coco soundtrack, and in 2017 she also embarked on the first volume of the music series that this record is the sequel to, which from what I've read, I guess the sessions were so fantastic and there were so many musical results from them that there was enough material for another volume. Now, the previous installment of Musas to me read as Natalia exploring a variety of shades and sounds within the world of Latin American folk, but still in a way maintaining a pretty firm grip on her pop roots. But Musas Volume 2 to me reads like a little bit more of a clean break from the poppier sounds of the last record. To be blunt about it, this album is pretty much 13 tracks, almost an hour of elegant, gorgeous, beautiful, and rustic Latin American folk, which really runs the emotional and instrumental gamut from the incredibly groovy and bombastic opening track, Florecerá, Florecerá. The rhythms, the horns, the background vocals on this track, it's all bright, it's all vivid, it all hits incredibly hard. We quickly transition into more low-key moments on the album, like Alma Mia, a track that is as quiet as it is stunningly beautiful. It's a song where the instrumentation is not quite as aggressive, not quite as loud, and instead we get a lot more interesting, very jazzy chord phrasings and guitar embellishments throughout the track, all of which are executed on these very crystal clear, plucky nylon strings. The ballad on Hoy Mi Dia Uno is aided by some very nice glossy reverb, steady guitar strumming, some very nice harmonized guitar leads that kind of sparkle like stars in the night sky, which Natalia's voice just glows within like a moon. A big, bright, beautiful, full moon. The song Tus Ojitos changes things up with a 3/4 time signature, some really sharp, snappy rhythms. Oh god, also the vocal harmonies on this track, they're so beautiful, they just melt my brain. The song Duerme Negrito has these very steady, mid-paced, sensual rhythm guitars, and while, yes, there is a language barrier at work here for me, there's just a mood and a vibe of the track that feels distinctly kind of sassy and coy. No surprise that a track titled Luz de Luna has kind of a nocturnal vibe to it. It's one of the milder moments on the album for me, maybe a bit of a lull in the record, but still it does feel kind of special in that while it is not the loudest or the quietest or the most stark track on the entire record, it is one of the most intimate. It feels like one of the closest tracks. Like Natalia's voice, the guitars, they just really kind of create almost like a beautiful but kind of claustrophobic sense of space on the song. Almost like her and Los Macorinos are kind of trying to keep the song a secret. The beefy drums and rhythms on the track Derecho are fantastic. They add a lot to the hypnotic guitars on the cut. There's also this nice, sweet, droning tone that pops up in the background of the chorus that just adds a lot of very subtle tension to the song. And there's also the very dreamy and inspiring track Eclipse, which is so beautiful and just so serene that I want to wrap myself in it like a blanket and get into the fetal position and go to sleep for the rest of my life. The song DESDEñOSA, in comparison with the other tracks here, has kind of a play style and a chord progression that feels distinctly older, distinctly archaic in comparison with a lot of the peppier and smoother and more contemporary sounds on these Latin American folk styles. And I think the reason for that might have been that there are two vocal guests on this track, actually two pretty big names in Latin American music. Omar Portundo and Eugenia Leon. Believe me, I'm in over my head here when it comes to a lot of this music. I'm not an expert on either of their careers or anything like that. However, I do know a good recording when I hear one. I know some decent production when I hear it, and I know a good vocal performance when I hear one as well. These three kind of trade verses and their points on the song where they harmonize collectively, and God, is it gorgeous. The intense pacing of the song SIGO raises my heart rate. The closing acoustic instrumental on the album is a very nice touch as well that I enjoyed a lot. I'll say that maybe there are a few tracks that kind of pale in comparison to others, and as a record, it is a little bit bloated. I do kind of prefer that, in a way, the last installment of this series was tighter at around 45 minutes, but still, the material on here is fantastic. It is high grade, it is high quality, and this is easily one of my favorite records of the year, one of the most beautiful albums I've had the pleasure of listening to this year. Again, some points feel a little comatose, and as an entire album, it can feel kind of samey, which is maybe why, again, I wish that track list was pared down just a smidge, just a little bit, but overall, like, this is easily one of the best albums in this genre I think you may hear this year. I'm feeling a strong 8 on this thing. Transition. Have you given this album a listen? Did you love it? Did you hate it? What would you rate it? You're the best. You're the best. What should I review next? Hit the like if you like. Please subscribe, and please don't cry. Just leave a thoughtful comment in the comments if you're feeling like you're full of thoughts. Over here next to my head is another video that you can check out. Hit that up, or the link to subscribe to the channel. Anthony Fantano, Musas Volume 2, forever.